What is up, guys? It's your boy here, Jersey Flex, back with another awesome video. As you guys know by the title of this video, we're going to be discussing Deca. Deca Dick. Deca Wiener. Deca, my dick won't get hard. Deca. Deca. Every bodybuilder out there has heard of Deca Wiener, Deca Hot Dog, where you get embarrassed in front of a lady friend because your partner won't be at attention. So this is probably the steroid that's most famously known for producing those ED libido issues. So we have a lot to get into discussion, not just about that. We're going to discuss dosage, a little bit about the history, a little bit about the chemical structure, the NOR19 testosterone derivative. We're going to discuss all that good stuff that you need to know about Deca. We're also going to be discussing the reason why it won't stand up the way it should stand up, if you know what I'm saying. So, but before we get into any of that stuff about Deca, I'm going to ask that you guys go down, hit that red button, hit the subscribe button if you're new to this channel. If you're a returning subscriber, thanks for being faithful to this channel. As you guys know, we do nothing but anabolic compound reviews, workout reviews, bodybuilding vlogs, anything fitness related that's just plain awesome on this channel. So I'm going to ask that you guys subscribe, and also in the description I'm also leaving a link to our sponsor, HTLT Supplements. Thanks to Greg Doucette. Go check it out. I'm leaving a link down in the description if you guys are interested in buying any quality supplements. And let's get this video started. Roll that intro. Boom!
Maybe it's a new beginning. Maybe it's the start of where it ends. I know. There's no going back, and I'm loving the chase.
What is up, guys? Are you guys ready to start talking about Deca Nandrolone? So the first thing I want to say right off the gate is I have a lot to discuss in this video, so make sure you watch this video from start to finish, as Deca is really one of those compounds that's not only rich in history, but there's a lot to know about it, and there's a lot to know in terms of it being a long ester. That's one thing that you should know right off the gate. Is that it lasts very long. It'll stay in your system for about 7 to 8 weeks, even after you stop taking it. So you're still going to notice the effects of Deca running in your system even 7 to 8 weeks after taking it. So one thing that I can advise right away, and starting off this review by saying this, is I do not recommend it for female athletes, because if you start to experience any kind of adverse androgenic effects as a female, let's say you stop taking it, you've been running it for 3 weeks, you start noticing, those androgenic side effects, you stop taking it now, you're still looking at another 3 to 4 weeks of side effects. So that being said, it also takes a while for the compound to start taking effect in your body as a man as well. You're looking at 2 to 3 weeks before you notice the Deca starting to kick in or reaching its peak. So a very classic steroid cycle is, and this goes back to like the golden era, the famous guys from back in that time, the classic bodybuilders, they would typically run a Dianabol start, and test in Deca during the cycle. But even then, when they'd come off of the test, they would come off of the Deca 3 weeks before they would come off the test, because the Deca would still stay in the system. So if you stop taking test and it stays in your system for another 2 weeks, Deca is going to do that for about, like I mentioned, 7 to 8 weeks. So you'd stop taking the Deca 3 weeks before you stop taking the test, sort of thing. I hope that makes sense. In the discussion of Deca and its correlation with other compounds just yet, I kind of just want to cover the basis of Deca, because that's the whole reason you guys are here, and I don't want to waste your time. So 200 to 400 milligrams a week is a pretty respectful dose of Deca. And just so you guys know, Deca is actually not what the compound is named. It's actually Nandrolone. It's, you know, it's a testosterone derivative, so it's a NOR19 compound. And NOR19, it's classified that because at the 19th position, it's missing the carbon atom. So that's what makes it a NOR19 compound, and it's, you know, testosterone. That's the father of the compound. That's why it does so well with testosterone, but it does not have the androgenicity of testosterone. So you're not going to get any balding. And this is what kind of leads us to our next discussion, which is how I started the video, which all you guys want to know about that infamous Deca wiener that my ween dog won't stand up. So the reason why Deca does that is because a lot of it converts to DHN, and DHN is basically the opposing to DHT. DHT is what produces the erections. So oftentimes the best way to counteract that is by taking a DHT derivative compound while you're also running the Deca. So some examples of DHT compounds would be Winstrol, Anavar. Those are all great. Personally, Anavar. I mean, Winstrol is a little bit, you know, rougher on your system in my opinion. And again, I'm not advising you guys to take any of these compounds. These videos are strictly for educational purposes. Jersey Flex is not telling you to go out to your street dealer and do this. This is only for entertainment and educational purposes only. But that is how you counteract the effects of Deca on your ween dog, is you take a DHT derivative compound alongside with it, and that'll hopefully keep your soldier at attention, if you get what I'm saying. So all right, moving away from talking about sausages and how you can get it up. One thing that Deca is infamously known for, which would be a injustice for me to not mention it in this video, is its benefits to your joints. It is one of the classic steroids that is just known for helping your joints. It helps you lift better. It's just really good on your joints. Whereas like something like Winstrol would dry out your joints, Deca is known to do the opposite. And it really has been around for a very long time, because a lot of people like to dispute the comparison. And I know I made a video about Ostarine. So Ostarine is known for helping your joints. And for you guys who don't know, Ostarine is a newer compound. It is a SARM. So here's the thing. Deca and helping your joints, it's been around for a very long time. So we know the long-term side effects that can arise from using Deca. Because classic bodybuilders way back into the 70s, 80s, and so on were running Deca, and they're still alive and well today. We know what kind of side effects they experienced in the long term. Whereas a newer compound like Ostarine, we don't really know exactly what's going to happen 10, 20, 30, 40 years down the road. You might be okay, you might experience that minimal liver toxicity while taking the oral compound, but who's to say that 20, 30 years down the future you have severe, you know, memory loss, or you experience some kind of stroke or something. You don't really know exactly what Ostarine is going to do. So, but yes, I believe personally, Ostarine, the SARM, MK2866, I believe that is actually better in terms of joint health and helping your joints than Deca is. But Deca is still known for that, and I just feel like that's something I personally cannot leave out of this video, is if you are running Deca, you are going to experience a very good feeling in your joints. And my advice to you guys is to just be mindful of that. Just because your joints feel better, and you definitely feel stronger, and your muscle tissue is growing, and etc., you might feel better in your joints, you might be lifting heavier weight, but that's the thing, that's when you're going to produce the damage to your joints, because you're lifting heavier, you feel like you can do it, you're definitely getting stronger and building the muscle, but your joints are not ready for it. They might feel ready due to the Deca, but you're really not ready. So my advice is to just take it easy, you know, don't lift with an ego, you're gonna grow, you know, leave some gains for the future. Don't try and gain all 20 pounds now. Take your time, pace yourself, but obviously if you're taking Deca, you probably don't want to pace yourself. You want all the muscle in the world now. So, but that's just some advice for you guys. So another thing that's pretty important to include in this video is to mention that Deca can actually be received through doctor prescription. You know, some of these rejuvenation clinics will actually prescribe Deca legally, kind of like TRT, that kind of thing. You know, you can actually get your hands on some Deca legally. Would I go through the trouble of going to an HRT clinic or a rejuvenation clinic to get it myself? I'm not too sure of that, but some of these rejuvenation clinics, especially here in Florida on the East Coast, more towards like Miami, Boca Raton kind of area, you can find these rejuvenation clinics and they'll basically give you anything that's legal and okay to prescribe. You just basically got to ask, you know. So that is, you know, food for thought. You can acquire it legally, which not too many people know that. You know, the same way that Anavar can also be prescribed legally, but that's more for medical purposes and not in the 25, 50 milligram bodybuilder dose, but more like the 2 or 3 milligram dose. So these are just some things for you guys to know, some fun facts about Deca. It is legal. Correction, it is legal only through prescription. I would say, you know, the only real downfall is the Deca Wiener, where it won't stand up, the Deca Dick. That's really where the downfall in the compound is, because it has a lot of anabolic activity, but not a lot of androgenic activity. So what does that mean? It really is weak when it comes to, there's virtually no hair loss, no acne, no gyno, none of the bad androgenic side effects that you would get with something like Dianabol. So you're able to get a lot of anabolic activity, muscle growth, without the side effects that like testosterone or tren would give you. So why does that make it such a good compound to pair with something else? Because you're able to double the anabolic effect. So if you run Deca with, let's say, testosterone, or you run Dianabol and Deca, you're able to get twice the anabolic effect because you're running 2 androgens. And now the only one really producing androgenic side effects is the other one, not the Deca. So that's what makes Deca such a great thing that you can partner with. You know, it really is a soundproof, minimal side effect, well-researched compound that has been around for a very long time. And for a lot of guys that are looking to put on some mass real quick, it's something that you can get on the low in terms of price-wise. You know, it's not one of those crazy expensive, you know, obviously digging into the black market. You know, and again, this channel does not promote any usage of these things. It's just for educational purposes. It is a very cheap, you know, on the streets, so to speak. It's a very cheap compound. So chances are, if you do, you know, decide to break the law like an idiot and go get it, you're probably going to get the real deal stuff because nobody would really try and counterfeit it. It's something you can get fairly cheap. You know, a lot of people try and falsify or counterfeit the compounds that are more expensive. So, you know, that being said, it's probably real if you got it from the weird guy in the alleyway. Just saying. So this part I have to put into the video because some of the people that watch my channel are tested athletes. Some of you guys out there at home, you know, you guys are athletes either in college and you want to learn about these compounds because you guys are foolishly using it yourselves. So I'm here to entertain you guys with some knowledge. Deca is a terrible idea for a drug tested athlete, and the reason why is because I kind of briefly mentioned this earlier in the video. It's a very long ester. Not only does it take a long time to kick in and start working in the system, but it takes an even longer time for it to leave the body. So for you guys who are worried about like work related drug test, normally they only analyze you for recreational drugs and such. They do not really analyze you for performance enhancement stuff. That's more your athletes and things like that. You guys are going to get popped. So the reason why Deca, it really has to do with the ester that's attached to it, the Nandrolone. because, excuse me, it has such a long ester, and that's what keeps it in your system longer. It's only roughly about 60% of nandrolone, which is the actual compound. The rest of it is the ester that's going to stay in your system for that duration. So let's say you come off of it 6 to 8 weeks, like I mentioned earlier. It's out of your system. It's only out of your system in terms of not having that anabolic effect. It's no longer producing side effects. It's no longer doing what Deca does in your system. But if you take a drug analysis for, let's say, sports, college sports, it can show up in your system in up to 18 months after. So for any drug-tested athlete out there, it's a pretty foolish compound to be running even in your off season, because by the time you're in your on season, it's still going to be in your system. So it's not something, for those athletes back home that are watching this, or for anyone who wants to know what it's like on the drug tested protocol, it's just a terrible compound to run in terms of that, because it will show up. Unless you have 3 years to wait and just drink gallons of water and get it out of your system. But I mean, that's like highly unlikely. It's just not something you would run if you are a tested athlete, period. But that being said, in terms of traveling, for those people who decide to break the law, 100% on them, foolishly, they run cycles and stuff, and they have issues traveling because they can't bring stuff with them on planes and stuff like that. The fact that it is such a long ester, hypothetically, you could blast yourself before hopping on a plane, and you're good for another 2 or 3 weeks while this, Deca is still running in your system. You can go on a 1 or 2 week vacation without having to break the law and bring something on a plane, and this compound would still be running in your system due to the long ester that it has. So that, that's some more food for thought in terms of Deca, So there's really 2 more things that I kind of want to discuss before I begin to wrap this video up. This won't be a Deca video without mentioning it has mild depression issues that have been known to be correlated with this compound. So some people have claimed, some people, it's hit or miss. Some people love Deca. They claim that it's the best thing that they could ever run. Then you got the other guy who says, I don't really like it. It kind of makes me feel lethargic. It makes me feel tired. It makes me feel depressed. Everybody has a different reaction. And that all depends on, number 1, the amount of the dose that you run, and number 2, the individual. Because these compounds react differently in a person's body based off the receptors and also what else they run with it. Deca is one of those compounds that it all depends what you run with it is how it's going to interact. As you remember earlier, I mentioned if you run a DHT derivative, you're not going to get the Deca wiener. That is a perfect example of how Deca, will react with other compounds, and that's what kind of determines the outcome in most case scenarios. So if you want to avoid some of the side effects of Deca, be mindful of what you run it with and the quantity that you run as well. As I mentioned, 200 to 400 milligrams a week is generally, an ideal, a very common dosage for this kind of thing, that I've seen online and on forums and stuff like that, and from friends of mine that have told me. So 200 to 400. Now another thing too to add to the sad effect that it gives you is it's not like Tren in any kind of way. I do have to compare it to Tren because Tren is also something that activates the mind in terms of libido and those sexual hormones that can be triggered. With Tren you get this crazy type of paranoia. This anxiety, like everyone's out to get you, you get paranoid, like you think he's looking at you for a specific reason, you want to punch him for God knows what reason. That, like, Tren just makes you freak out in a nasty way. Whereas Deca is kind of the complete opposite. Deca kind of makes you, again, like I mentioned, sad and lethargic, but it makes you feel like, like I don't care almost. Like you don't have a care in the world. Like, you know, that's what a lot of people do claim. And again, there are people out there that are saying that never happened to me, that would never happen to me. And I've taken it multiple times. Like I mentioned, it does depend on the individual. These are just hypothetical things that have happened to other people that could happen to someone who is watching this video. So I don't want to leave that out. Is it definitely going to happen to you? No. Everybody is different. These are just potential things that can happen. So I can't leave none of that stuff out when I'm explaining this. Because if you go to some of the older guys in your gym and don't run up to them and be like, hey, what's your favorite compound? What's your favorite steroid? You know, don't do that unless you actually know them. Some people can find that disrespectful. But some of the older guys in a gym, they'll typically say that they love Deca. You know, it really is an original compound. And the reason why I believe a lot of the older guys love it is because it kind of puts the cherry on top of what you're running. As I mentioned, it's great to run with other compounds. So it really kind of puts the sprinkles on top. You know, if you're running test and D-ball and then you throw in a little Deca, it's just going to enhance what the D-ball and test is doing. It's just going to be like that magic touch, that little extra. It's going to like solidify the look, you know. So, you know, I hope this video helped you guys out. If you guys feel like there's anything at all that I left out about Deca, leave that down in the comments below. Also, let me know what your experiences were. If any of you guys decided to be foolish like me and actually tried the compound, leave that down in the comments below. Let me know what you guys think personally about the compound. Let me know if there's anything I left out. But until next time, guys, go down, crush that subscribe button. I'm your boy Jersey Flex. And let's roll that freaking outro video. You heard me? Boom!